Extraordinary new crisis in Brazil. How big does this incident set the country back in terms of credibility in the market, the economy, all that stuff?
It sets it back incredibly. And we had just seen Brazil's numbers start to get better, right? Inflation had come down to 4.1%. Economic growth had finally turned positive. They were getting some traction. And all of a sudden, this political crisis, and this really is a step up from those before, throws that all into question again.
How is it different this time? Because during Dilma Rousseff's impeachment, a lot of people were saying Michel Temer might be painted with that same brush. He might be involved in the corruption scandal. You know,
we have seen some of the plea bargains and stuff name him, but those were for crimes or alleged crimes that happened before he became president. And while he's president, he can't be tried for those crimes. But these allegations actually happened just a few months ago. So they were actions he took while president. And now perhaps, if it's true, there's obstruction of justice. So those he could be tried on. He won't have immunity.
So what happens now? Because we believe that, according to these reports, the suggestion is that the former House Speaker has provided evidence to the Supreme Court. How do they now act?
So I think there's three ways that this goes, and most of them end up with Temer out. There's fast, slow, and slower. One is he resigns. He said he won't today, but he could be pressured to. Two is he is impeached. So that's a process. Both houses have to go 2/3 majority to impeach him. That's a slower process.
We've been down that road before.
And we've seen that happen last year with Dilma Rousseff. And the third one is that the courts, and particularly the Supreme Court, take on this case. They investigate it, they prosecute it, and then they come up with a verdict. But that is a much longer process.
I was reading a note from Citi, and they were talking about the chain of succession in Brazil, and they pointed out that some of the other people in the line also have their own legal issues hanging over them. Is there just a deeper rot in the political culture in this country that removing one person or another isn't really going to address?
I mean, that is the challenge. We see a third of the Congress under indictment or under investigation. There really is a rot. And we see that in the Lava Jato, these Petrobras-related scandals. The question is who comes in. And whatever happens here, there's elections in 2018. And Brazilians are going to be looking, they already are, but even more so, for some sort of outsider to come in.
Will early elections happen, or is it more likely that someone, if President Temer is forced to step down in some event, that someone steps in the interim?
So the rules are that the Congress gets to decide who it is. There's an indirect election. But you could imagine perhaps protests in the street forcing the Congress's hand to hold some sort of election. That's one possibility. But the rules right now say Congress gets to choose their person.
What happens to all the reform that Michel Temer was supposed to lead in the meantime? Congress, for instance, was due to vote on a long-anticipated and controversial overhaul of the pension system by the end of this month. Does that just fall by the wayside?
I think it's all dead. If he stays, he has no political support and will within the Congress. And if they bring in someone else, I don't think they'll attach themselves to someone who has less than a 10%, before this happened, had less than a 10% approval rate. And really, they're worried about their own skin. And then if there's an interim president, that person has no political capital.
Very quickly, I heard a rumor that it could benefit former President Lula. What's the likelihood of that, given his own scandal and investigations going on?
You know, if you look at the opinion polls, he's the most popular politician in Brazil today. He's down, actually has been down in Curitiba with Sergio Moro, the Lava Jato investigator or judge. So he's going through his own process, but he hasn't yet been banned from politics. So this could strengthen him.
Do you think this could lead to social unrest?
I think we're going to see it tonight in Brazil. We've already started to see demonstrations. Expect more, especially since he came out and defiantly said he won't resign.
So real quickly, what's the next key thing that you're going to be watching for?
So I would watch what those protests look like. I would also watch if and when they release the actual audio. When people actually hear their president saying those words, can he hold on?
Hold your hats in these markets. I think that's the
absolutely.
key here.
There might be more downside then for those Brazilian assets.